Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show where the action is the juice and where we live our lives a quarter mile at a time. I'm your host Cisco from Misfit Minded. You can follow me at on all the socials at misfit_minded and my website misfitminded.com.
And I'm your other host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
Each week we take the red pill and use our certain set of skills to break down the best action films of all time. Don't usually do modern day stuff as much, but we're making an exception today because this is an event. We're talking about the newest installment in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F.
Do you ever read your own file? Various shootouts, evading the police.
I've been hearing Axel Foley's story since the academy.
And what the hell you think you're doing?
What the hell you think you're doing? Hey, pull over!
You know, this is very embarrassing.
Yeah, well, you should have thought of that before your little joyride back there.
Reunited with all his old buddies.
Hey,
Hey, you can't keep doing this shit.
he shot my runner-up! You have another one?
Never have too much firepower.
Eddie Murphy.
No! Woo! Toledo! You need to share your voice with the world! You really want to fuck with me, man?
God, I missed you, Axel.
Here.
What am I supposed to do with that?
Shoot bad guys. The heat's back on.
Drop your weapons!
Jesus Christ. Some things never change.
Beverly Hills Cop.
They love me in Beverly Hills.
Okay, so I just have to say that was my first time watching the trailer, so I'm glad I never did because they gave away stuff in there, like the Surge return. Like, come on!
Yeah, we were just talking about it
when he shows up in the movie because I didn't know he was going to be in here. So, but and I love the '80s trailer guy voice. We talked about that with Batman.
Best.
You know, that's just the best guy. I love that they brought him back.
Yeah, it reminded me of how we were talking about how like that's a critique that a lot of trailers get when they like tell you the whole story in the trailer. And I have to agree, after having seen it, I hadn't watched the trailer before either. And realize now.
I knew from like press photos that you know, a lot of the old guys would return though. But you know, so, to keep some stuff for the movie. I mean, come on, guys.
Let some surprises be there.
If you haven't seen it, it's about Axel F, Axel Foley, returning to Beverly Hills once again to take down a corrupt cop who is threatening his estranged daughter's life. To get this bullet train started, let's take the listeners over to Netflix, is where you can watch this film right now. Debuted on 4th of July weekend, was made for an estimated $150 million. Obviously, there's no box office because it's on streaming. So who knows what it might have. I think this might have been a good summer blockbuster release. I don't understand why it went straight to streaming. I feel like
same.
Other than like, you know, because I keep up with reviews and stuff, like the conversation was so muted for this movie. And I think if it had gotten a box, I mean, even just to make a pretty recent comparison, the new Bad Boys did, I think, relatively well in the box office.
Continues to climb. It's still making money.
So I'm kind of baffled by that decision, honestly. But maybe they were all kind of traumatized from Beverly Hills Cop 3 being such a disaster.
Oh man, I totally ride for it. It's the one that came out when I was a little girl, so I'm like, I love that one.
we'll get into it. It's I recently watched that for the first time, so I will talk about my reaction to that. But
okay.
Yeah, before we get into it, let's talk about the franchise as a whole. I guess yeah, we can do that here. Like, I don't know about you, but you know, so I recently rewatched all the Beverly Hills Cops movies to get ready for this one. Obviously, I had seen 1 and 2 many times. I was kind of obsessed with Eddie Murphy as a kid growing up. Like, I had a couple of guys that I just was like, you know, I ride for this person no matter what. So I remember, like, you know, Will Smith was one, Eddie was one, just Chris Farley. You know, I just had a couple of guys that I was just like really fascinated by their career and like
such a good time,
how talented they were, especially like at a young age. I mean, that's the one thing that, going back, I guess, is like, do you know how old like Eddie Murphy was when he made the first
He was
Beverly Hills
like
Cop?
23 or something.
Yes.
He was crazy young.
He's
Ugh,
23
so
and
dope.
like so and when he made his first special Delirious too, like it was that young. And so and then imagine that, even before that he was even younger when he was on SNL, and like,
That's so awesome.
ushered in that new like 80s SNL cast, because a lot of like the original cast was kind of leaving for
Yep.
their movie careers, like Chevy Chase and Bill Murray and all those guys, John Belushi. A lot of that
Yep.
original cast was kind of moving on, and so they had to bring in this new, and Eddie Murphy was like the guy in the
He
80s.
really set the tone for
Yeah.
like a new style of comedy that had to happen, because the 80s and 70s are different vibes in terms of what we laugh at.
And I was telling you, like, I was able to watch the special features for the first. I have the trilogy set, and there's only special features on the first one, which I thought was interesting. But the creation of the story was like really fascinating too, like just how Beverly Hills Cop got made. Like, I think that's like an important piece to talk about it, because I do think it is such a lightning in a bottle movie.
Right.
It was originally conceived to star Sylvester Stallone. I don't know if you knew that.
No, that's wild.
It was supposed to be
Whoa.
a Sylvester Stallone vehicle. And when he got the script, he basically wanted to take all the comedy out of it and make it like a straight Sylvester Stallone movie, which,
Understandable.
yeah.
Which I guess he would do with Sandy B when he makes his Beverly Hills Cop movie.
And so basically, the story goes, this is, people on the special features talking about it, but like Eddie Murphy was on the set of Paramount and bumped into somebody, and he just was like, "What are you working on right now? Like, any projects?" And he had only done 48 Hours at this point, so nothing leading yet. This was his first leading role, was Beverly Hills Cop. And he goes, "Oh yeah, we're working on this cop movie. This guy goes to Beverly Hills from Detroit," and he's like, I would be into that. Like, I would do that.
Hey, tell me more about that.
Like, just pitched himself. And then, they took it back to like the screenwriters and the director, and they were like, "Yeah, I think like he would actually work really well in this part, even though he's never led a movie before, and he just would be perfect for the comedy." And then that's how he got the role. And Sylvester Stallone like graciously pulled out. He didn't, because he was already signed on at that point to do it.
Wow.
And so he graciously was like, "You know what?" Like, and he took his kind of script and made Cobra. Like, so the I guess it was supposed to be
Yeah,
Cobra.
they feature a Cobra poster, I think, in this one, right?
And a lot of like Rambo like references throughout.
Yeah,
but
they're trying to honor Sly.
But he changed the last name to Cobretti. Like, he definitely made the guy, more Italian, and more Sylvester Stallone action star hero, that we've seen a million times. And then Eddie Murphy kind of just took the script, and for a lot of it, like, improvised. He's just like a great improviser. And so a lot of those like classic scenes of him just like bullshitting people was just like Eddie Murphy riffing. And
so good.
I think like the best one that Martin Brest, the director of the first one, which I still think is the best one out of the franchise.
Of course, it's the strongest. Yeah.
He talks about, he was struggling with the scene where he has to get into the club, like the country club, to confront the bad guy. And he's like, "I just don't think this scene is working on the page. Like, can you just come up with something, and, we'll see." And then like on the day, Eddie Murphy comes up with that whole, like, he's this like a strange lover, like, "Can you tell him I have herpes simplex 10?" And
so good.
And they just go, "I think it'd be best if you tell him that." "Yeah, I think that'd be best."
That's probably best. Yeah, it's like he needs that character,
so good.
That ability to fit into any environment. That like is something about what I love about this character, is like the undercover element allows him to bring in all that character work of the SNL kind of like vibe, and it's so funny and so believable too, because he really commits to the characters he plays when he's like going into these little, trying to break into places,
Yeah, just lying to people. And it's just hilarious. I mean, my other favorite in the first one is when he gets into the hotel and he's, "I'm a Rolling Stones reporter. I was gonna write a story about Michael Jackson, King of the World."
So good.
Just yelling at people and like, oh man. And so yeah, that one becomes a huge hit. They immediately do a sequel, get Tony Scott to do it. And so that one's more actiony. And
Yep.
already we're seeing kind of it, it doesn't really stack up as much the first one, even though I still love it. Brigitte Nelson is in there.
He's still doing his same tricks, of course.
And then the third one, which again, I just watched for the third time. I felt like that one was just truly awful. I could not.
Everyone hates it.
I could not believe, like, it was one of those things. I'm like, everyone hates this. I know that. Like, let me see if I can find like some redeeming qualities in it. And I was shocked. I was shocked at how it does not hold up. Like, CGI is terrible.
That's true.
There's all these weird cameos in it. Like George Lucas is in it. Like all these directors for no reason. Like,
it gets very Hollywood rather than Beverly Hills.
It's so weird. And then I was looking up like what happened. I was very curious, like what happened with the third one. And through my research, again, because it's not on the Blu-ray,
right?
They said that Eddie Murphy was so depressed during that time that he barely could finish certain scenes. And so John Landis would fill in for him. So a lot of times when people are talking to him, they're not even talking to Eddie. They're just like talking to someone off screen.
That makes me so sad to know.
It makes sense though, because he's not funny in the third one. The third one is
the charisma is not there in the same ways. Exactly.
And I guess he was trying to be like taken seriously as an actor, but someone just had to pull him aside and be like, dude, like this is Beverly Hills Cop though. Like this is a comedy first and foremost. Like it's okay if you want to do that in other movies, but like this is what people want to see from you. And so it's like, it's like a very dark and like serious movie compared to the other ones. It's really does feel like a black child, like as I was watching it. And
it's a lot later. I do feel like when sequels or when trilogies or franchises try to expand and they like move into new decades or they move into different chapters of like the actors' lives, this is like a big risk that I think sometimes the movies fall to. And like as a child, I didn't really notice because I saw this one first and then saw the others because they came out before I was around. But
that's what's weird
I would say, yeah, exactly. Like I would say in retrospect, that does make a lot of sense because like the 90s one feels different than the 80s one.
So different. I mean, yeah, it's made so much later than the other ones, which was weird. It appealed to like kid audiences while still being rated R. So you have like this weird mix of like it's at a theme park, but then he's like shooting guns at it. Like it's a very weird tone. And
I remember being scared of it.
They just couldn't even get like simple stuff right. Like he doesn't wear his Beverly Hills Cop attire of the Detroit Lions starter jacket. Like and the Axel F theme they like butcher. Like it was just I was like, oh man, I cannot believe John Landis, who made a lot of other great Eddie movies like Coming to America and what's the other one? Trading Places, like that he made Beverly Hills Cop 3. And I'm not blaming all of it on him. Like obviously Eddie was not in the right place to do it either, but like if anything, I was excited for Axel F to be like, okay, maybe they can end it on a higher note than Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Yeah, I wanted to hang out with my friends again, and I was hoping for the same thing.
So let's get into it. Let's see if they actually did succeed in that with our first segment called Getting the Band Back Together.
I don't have friends. I got family.
In this segment, we'll take a slow-mo look at the filmmaking choices that went into the film and the ass kickers responsible. This movie was written by Will Beall, Tom Gormican, and Kevin Eaton, and directed by Mark Malloy. None of those names stick out to me immediately, so there's that. But that's not necessarily a bad thing here. How did you kind of feel about this filmmaking, trying to bring this franchise into the future?
I don't know. Like, again, obviously the bar was set very low at 3. So I will say much better than 3 out of the gate. And I kind of could see that from the opening scenes where he's driving across Detroit and they're playing The Heat Is On, the 80s track from the first one. And it's like, okay, they get it. They get like, this is what people want to see. They don't want to see serious Axel. They want to see him like driving around his town, like he's yelling at kids or flipping them off,
Yes, with that silly smile on his face.
Yep. And so I dig that. Definitely music was better and it looks better. Although I will say it does have that like Netflix sheen that's like on all of their movies, where
Yeah,
it just makes them like all feel same, like the same, across the board. So I did
for sure.
feel that at times. Um, Other than that though, I would say it's the filmmaking, overall was pretty insignificant. Like I didn't think the action was that impactful. This was a first time director. And,
Okay.
when I found that out after I watched it, I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like there's definitely a lot of like playing it safe and, trying to play to the hits of just like let Eddie do his thing. And, the action did get like a little bit repetitive after a while where it's just like, all right, car chase to open. Then we got another car chase when he gets in the Beverly Hills Cop. Then there's another car chase towards the end. It's like I needed and like some gunfights, like sprinkled in there. And so yeah, from a filmmaking perspective, I would say he's no Tony Scott, he's no Martin Brest,
Right.
but definitely better than 3. I guess was like my first reaction. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I really wanted to like this movie because I love this franchise so much. So I think I was like, you know what? If you just play the hits for me, if you play fan service to me, I'm gonna like this movie. And I
Mhm.
do feel like that was like maybe the strength of the filmmaking. I agree it was like safe, but I almost feel like I think that's what I wanted here because it's been 40 years, so I can't have you try
Oof.
to reinvent
Yeah.
anything. I can't have you change my man or any of my dudes in this story. I need them to all just be like old men versions of themselves. And I do like, some of the new people that were added into the cast, the way they kind of fit into this world, I thought was kind of interesting.
Mhm.
I actually expected there to be less action. So even though I agree it's not like the action was like, taking some great risk, I will say some of the things I was like, oh shit, I can't believe they paid for that. All
Yeah, I
right.
think
All
I
right.
think that's what makes the first 2 such a good, like, pairing, in my opinion, is that Axel is still really funny in both of those movies, but,
Hmm.
like, first one's definitely leaning stronger towards a comedy, and then the
Right.
second one is, like, an action movie with the comedy in the
Yes.
back seat, and so
Yep.
this one was definitely, like, trying to combine the 2, to, I thought, like, mixed results. Like, obviously, I'm in the bag for this franchise and for Eddie, you know what I mean?
Same.
But, you also still need to bring something fresh and new. And I thought they kind of missed an opportunity to do that. Like, even this whole concept, which was like in the first movie of what made it funny, just the conceit, is like
Yep.
this black Detroit cop going into Beverly Hills,
They're full
and
of white folks.
full of white people that are like, what are you doing here at all
Yeah.
times? What are you
Yes.
doing here? Like, never mind like the way he's dressed. They're just like immediately there's a black dude here in Beverly Hills. Like,
Does everyone see? Yeah.
yeah. And so him like spitting in the face of that and being like, who are you?
Yeah, making fun
I'm
of that.
yeah, and this uppity culture. And so, there were some scenes that kind of did, and this like, there's a lot of people with their dogs or whatever in Beverly Hills and things like that. But I was just like, man, I think it's even more. It's so much different because it's we're in the 2020s. You know what I mean? And like they didn't really wrestle with that at all. Like why?
That is a really good point because like when I go to Beverly Hills, like there's legit diversity there now because it's
Yeah,
just like, hey, money talks straight up. Like we just want the money. So we don't even really care who you
yeah,
are. We just want your money if you've got it. And
hmm
I did think that was like an interesting part of this too, of being like, the 2 female cops were women of color who
yep,
arrested him in Beverly Hills.
yeah,
And I was like, that's amazing. I kind of wish he made a comment of like, oh wow, they actually, put that initiative on its feet. Like some joke about
it
how
just
like they're doing that just for, for woke culture or something. Something.
yeah, and like I maybe they avoided that because they didn't want to make him seem like an older guy. They want Axel to seem like young and hip, even though he's like
Yeah, like he can fit in anywhere anyway.
But like they show the diversity, but it was like a lot where it reminded me of like what we were talking about with Maxine. It's like they're showing that it's diverse, but never really engaging with that in any like meaningful way. You know what I mean? It's just
It's
I
true.
don't
It's like
know.
Eddie Murphy had such a unique he has cuz I think in other movies he still does this, but he has that knack for being able to like go at social issues through an interesting kind of humor that makes it really hard for you to not laugh. and then therefore kind of get educated, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But maybe that's another piece of where the story and the writing and everything kind of stays a little safe, right?
Yeah.
Like it isn't actually trying to get anybody angry. Because I have to imagine, and like based on my own history, most of the people I grew up loving this movie too were like white dudes. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
white dudes love that Axel is like loud and in your face or whatever, but he hangs out with these white cops. He's friends with them. He makes them seem
He's
cooler.
running the show. Like the white
Yeah.
cops are like, Axel, what are you doing? And he's just like in this mansion pool that's not his. You know what I mean? That might be my
Yes.
favorite of the entire franchise, is that he takes
So
over this
good.
mansion and
Yep.
just
Is this really your aunt's house?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and he says it I think that might be the last line of Beverly Hills Cop 2, is the guy going, "Who's that black guy? You know, what are you doing here? Who's that black guy?" Like,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
like that is such a part of this franchise. But even like the police work, I thought was like, pretty basic.
It was like really easy to call too.
Right,
It was
it's
like,
like-
this is so overtly corrupt. What's happening here?
so overly, and like he, when he does, he's like, "All right, we found the car with the the marks on it," and I was like, "Dude, your daughter already said that's what happened. Like, we already." Like,
Just believe her, bro.
I guess you have like some photo evidence of it now, but again, it wasn't good enough to where, I'm thinking of like he'll pull out stuff that I'm like, oh man, like I didn't expect that. Like where he like breaks into the windows with like the gum wrapper, or like he
Yes.
finds like the fingerprint on the
Yeah,
matches
teaches them
by
about
putting it in the turtle tank, that Rosewood
yes,
has.
with the
like,
super glue.
it's like there was all these like creative, detective things that like I wouldn't have known, just because I'm not, in law
I'm
enforcement.
not a cop. Yeah.
And like in this one, I'm just like, I feel like we would know how to do that stuff. Like me and you, like take a picture of the car, and like there's an SD card that we need to find. Like, it was very obvious. I felt like the detective.
Yeah, it was like it was interesting that his daughter played a lawyer, because I feel like that served as a device for them to be able to explain that like Axel used to have all these things. Like his daughter mentioned like, "Oh yeah, I did forget how to do all those cool cop tricks you taught me." Or, here is me showing my daughter, the lawyer, how I gather evidence, as if to like handhold the audience to how evidence is
know.
collected. So I did think that like some of that stuff, it was a little on the nose in terms of like
She is the law. She
the
represents the
dialogue.
law, how you're supposed to do
Right.
things, and he's like never abiding by that. I will say probably my favorite sequence of it that totally worked for me as like, this is an Axel Foley, like adding to that legacy of it, was just the opening one where he's at the Red Wings game.
So good.
And he's like, I never thought you would have liked hockey, Axel. He's like, oh, why would you say that? Because of
Yes.
this. And he's like, no. And he's like, I'll have you know that I was watching the Negro League hockey.
Exactly.
Straight up, like, see, I wanted more of that. Like, just like playing with that race thing of it, like this black
So
dude.
good. I could be better. I'm gonna be better.
I'm gonna be a better white guy. And he's like doing his like classic white voice he does in like his stand-up especially. He's like, well,
So
if I
good.
did you, then he's like, yeah, then I'll fuck you
It'd
up.
be
Like,
highly offensive. That's right. Yes, God. Yeah, exactly. It's like they tapped everything, but it wasn't the same through line that it used to be in the other films.
But it's like, yeah, it's poking fun at that, that whole racial component that like, I was like, when that first happened, I was like, oh, we're this is it. We're in a good spot here. And then it kind of just like slowly drifts away into more like situational stuff.
It might be also like a subtle Hollywood kind of problem, because it did sort of feel like they were like, we'll point the racism out in Detroit, but we're going to make it seem like Beverly Hills is like a different
So
place.
much
His daughter is a
diversity and
lawyer. She
yeah.
works at like a beautiful law firm. She used to date a white guy. Like, everything's cool out here now.
Yeah. And like the female cops thing was definitely like another, I think, chance they missed. But I did laugh too when he gets arrested and he's just like this RC car looking shit thing.
Yes, this is embarrassing.
Yeah. And that cop too, I was immediately recognized one of the female cops with like the bushy eyebrows.
Mhm.
She was in that movie I just recommended to you, Suitable Flesh, as a cop.
Ooh,
She
nice.
like this,
She's carving out a role for herself.
So it was hilarious. And then I looked at Joe Lynch's review on Letterboxd, and he goes, "That female cop looked familiar."
Yes.
So I don't know. Yeah, and then like, yeah, I guess the action, like if you're gonna do that much action. I just wish they had like a choreographer or something that could have like juiced it up. You know what I mean? It just,
Yeah, in the filmmaking for sure.
I that was just one thing I felt like, was lacking. And it's not just might be a modern filmmaking thing too, because I had the same complaint with the third Bad Boys movie. I thought was a little stale with the action too.
Same.
I haven't seen the new one, but
the new one is good.
Okay, that's
it
what I've
steps
heard.
it up. Amazing directing in the new one, straight up.
And so I get it. Like, a lot of these guys are older, but like, even with Eddie and even in those first Beverly Hills Cop, it's so obvious it's a stunt guy.
Yeah, I was
so
gonna say, that's what stunt guys are for. That's what they're for.
It's like a guy with like, they're trying to match the Eddie hair, but it's like, obviously this guy is like 6'2", and like they just put him in a Lions jacket and cut back to Eddie on the floor, like, like, so I don't know, but yeah, I think that was probably the things I had the most trouble with, was just the story. The action, and then just the story I felt like kind of was stale too, which is like the problem with legacy sequels too. Like, I think it was reminding me a lot too of the new Indiana Jones that came out too, which, a lot of people like that,
it was a fun time.
I struggled with that too, where it's just like, we're just playing the hits. It felt very safe. Who do we pick as the bad guy? A Nazi again, like
that's what we came here for.
It's like, and then who do we get for Beverly Hills Cop? It's like a corrupt cop, which, I guess they've never had no, they did have that in the third one. The third one's a corrupt
and they
cop.
had it in the second too. It was a corrupt cop that got framed in the second one.
Okay. Yeah. So it's, again, just playing the hits, and, it was nice to have Kevin Bacon again. We just reviewed Maxine, but you could tell that he was having a lot more fun in Maxine, chewing up those scenes with the accent.
Yeah, he was just doing what he does best, which is like playing a slimy bad guy. Classic Bacon.
Yeah.
I mean, that I agree with you, like, I think there's a couple of details that I was like, oh, okay, there's that. But for the most part, I think playing it safe, it was okay with me here, just because of the history, and I did want to preserve it. And maybe that is part of why they play it safe now that when they're making these franchises so much later. Because, we also talked about in Maxine how, like, when people try to reinvigorate a franchise and like turn it into something really serious, it does not work. So maybe they're
Beverly
just
Hills
trying
Cop
to be
3
like,
definitely did not work.
No. But like, it could have been that type of thing. I did like a lot of the actors. So let's slide into the next segment. Choose your fighters. We can talk about some of them.
Welcome to the party, pal.
This is where we take a look at all of the bros and babes that flex their acting muscles, and sometimes their real muscles, for us movie buffs. The film stars JGL, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Judge Reinhold, Taylor Page, Paul Reiser, John Ashton, Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon, baby.
Jesus Christ. Kevin Bacon and Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley. So, yeah. Yes. What did you think?
I love seeing all the OGs. Judge Reinhold makes me laugh so hard. Just like, he's just the goofiest guy. He's such a silly dude.
He's the only one other than Eddie that's in all of them, I think.
Yeah. And I love that he was just like such a huge actor in the past. Like, that's one of my favorite things to revisit, is that like he was really famous in the 80s. Oh, yeah. So it was fun to have all those guys back. And I did like the addition of Joseph Gordon-Levitt sort of having similar Reinhold vibes, but like in a modern way. Mm-hmm. I thought that was like an interesting thing. I really like Taylor Page just as an actress. She was so good in Zola. So I was like, let's go, be in this big property, get a paycheck, please. And I did think she was funny as Murphy's daughter, like sort of being like, I'm not here for any of your jokes. Like, I literally hate you. I thought that was like pretty funny.
Yeah. Like, what are we bonding right now? Like,
and I did think like that was an interesting piece for me too, where I was like, they're playing all the hits too, but they're also being like, yeah, he had a life in the background and maybe his career kind of interfered with that. So I like their attempt to do some emotional lifting there. And I feel like she just did a good job of like not trying to make it too serious and like cry, but also hold him accountable and be like, it was still your job, bro. Mm-hmm. So I kind of liked, her addition to question his, the life story of this guy who we love so much for being kind of like goofy and doing whatever he wants, and what maybe the ramifications are without going too deep. I really liked the Luis Guzman cameo. I thought that was so funny. I love Luis Guzman. Anytime he's around, I'm like, please be in every movie, please. So yeah, I think the actors all showed up and they were like, we're here to love this franchise and we're here to try to like serve this franchise. And I think I that's my favorite thing when actors like show up and are ready to complete the assignment.
Yeah, I mean, this is another part where fully went into it being like, I can't wait to see all these guys again. And then after I saw it, I was just like, I mean, like, for what purpose? I guess that was my question the whole time. Did you, justify your existence, Axel F? You know what I mean? And I just don't know if they got there. And I felt like I felt that in a lot of these performances of like the people that got back, like Judge Reinhold, I think maybe might be the best one just because, he's always game to come back and he's like the
So
one that gets
goofy.
to like smile and have a good time. Like you saw that in the trailer, like, I really missed you, Axel. Like I missed this.
This is my Rambo knife.
That's one of my favorite running gags. And the second one too is that like you find something else about Rosewood and they're just like, we really got to talk, bro. Like,
Yes. Yes.
like he just has like these weapons and he's just like clearly obsessed with like trying to be this hot shot. And it's
Yep.
just like, yeah, we really got to talk. But yeah, like when it got to like John Ashton as Taggart, like I really didn't think that character was very good. If I'm being
That
honest.
was part of my like questions and plot holes was sort of like what was up with his character. He was in it more than Reinhold, even though Reinhold like had had a bigger part of the story, if that makes sense. And he just wasn't actually playing the hits, which I didn't like.
Like, what about this? This is just me spitballing here. I know, like, again, 2024, you're not supposed to have just like the female characters be kidnapped or whatever. But
Right.
let's just say that his daughter gets kidnapped. He goes to Beverly Hills Cop or Beverly Hills, and he, tries to take it up with them. And they're like, dude, like you haven't talked to your daughter in 5 years. Maybe she just doesn't want to talk. Like they don't believe him. So then him and Rosewood have to go on another adventure and investigate it together. I'm like, dude, that would have been awesome. Like I would have liked to see that or something like that. You know what I mean? But and again, I didn't mind him and the daughter having to go on this, together. I love Zola too. So I was happy to see her in this too. But then even some of the other cameos, I just kind of left me like feeling blah. Like Paul Reiser was in it for just like the one or two scenes, just as like his boss being like, Axel, you're at it again.
Well, we needed more of that thing where like Paul Reiser always covers his ass for him.
Right.
Like he always has his ass.
Thing. And in this one, it was just like, whatever, I'm retiring. And I was like, all right, great. And then Serge, who is like always like, I was definitely excited when they said, when he said, I think I know someone. And I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, Serge, let's go, Serge. And I just, it even felt like he was kind of like tired of playing this character when I was watching it. Like it just didn't feel,
we had like 2 seconds with him.
Yeah. And it just didn't feel like, when they bring him back before, but like, they bring back, they're like, get the fuck out of here. Like from the first one, like those kind of jokes, like, that scene is another scene that's like one of my favorites. Like if you go back and watch the first Beverly Hills Cop, they say that, Eddie never broke. He was always making other people break, but because it was his first movie, he like tried to take it serious. And so, but the only scene that you can really tell of him breaking is that scene with him and Bronson Pinchot. So you can see when, he's doing his whole accent thing and exhale. And Eddie is like doing everything in his power. He's like biting his lip. He's like looking down. He is like licking his lip. Oh man, it's so good. So I just missed that, I guess. And then Kevin Bacon, stock bad guy.
Right.
And then
clearly the bad guy the whole time too.
From the beginning, like, and this was part of my problem too with like Beverly Hills Cop 3, where like he witnesses his sergeant get murdered in that one. Goes to Beverly Hills. He's like, oh, that's the guy that murdered my boss. And everyone's like, yeah, right. Get out of here. It's like, what the fuck? He's a cop.
Come on.
You know what I mean? So it was kind of that same thing where he's like, oh yeah, he has a Rolex and $2,000 shoes. Like this is obviously the bad guy. And like no one listens to him. I'm just like 4 films of him having to like prove that he's right. And at least in the second one, the lieutenant in charge like gets shit canned at the end because he doubted the whole time. And it's like, good. Like there needs to be some accountability for that because Axel was right the whole time. And then, the Guzman one, obviously he's fun all the time, but like some of the other ones, it was like weird. Like the one where, They had the dude from Happy Gilmore, Shooter McGavin,
Oh, right.
playing golf, and it was
So
just like,
random.
why choose that? Like, obviously, everyone watching it's going to be like, oh, is this like some sort of like Happy Gilmore like riff? Like, what are you
Crossover. Yeah.
doing? Like,
What is it?
it was
Yeah,
so
that was
strange.
a
I don't
little
know.
random. Yeah, I feel like that's exactly it. Is most of the cameos, like even though Serge like hooked them up with being able to tour the house, he it wasn't like he became this big Beverly Hills real estate agent. He just led us to another character, and I feel like a lot of the cameos, I wanted them to actually be like, we require Serge to do this hijinks because he's going to come with us for it and like be a part of it, and we're going to be riffing with each other and do more. And I do feel like that's what I kind of wanted for Judge too. Like I wanted them to be cutting back to him, in his situation, like trying to escape, trying to get messages to Axel. Like they just were like, he's not answering, and he just didn't answer for like the whole movie.
And it
And
just, yeah, it feels like a lot of different ideas. And I heard an interview where, they were asking like, Eddie, why did you come back for this one after all these years? And he said, well, there was like 8 different scripts that we had to, like different passes to try and make it right. And as I was watching this, I was like, I can feel it. I can feel like they were probably taking bits from the 8 different scripts. And like,
yeah, I mean, there were multiple screenwriters.
Probably like there was one where it was just the young cast and that was it, and the new people, and then and then maybe one was just the old people returning, and then they tried to like mix those together, and that's why it maybe feels so awkward,
A little disjointed. Yeah,
that they're trying to fit in both of those, because and I almost wish like if you're going to do that, the cameos, whatever, they're nice to put in the trailer or whatever, but if you're not going to do anything meaningful with them, I felt the same way in Indiana Jones, where it's like you bring Marion back and it's like, why? He's
yeah,
he's this lonely character living by himself. Why do we need Marion in Indiana Jones, the new one? So yeah, it was just very strange. Like, and it did, yeah, disjointed, I think is the right word, where it just, I didn't know if you're going to do the father-daughter thing, do the father-daughter thing, you don't have to, bring back these characters, Judge Reinhold, just for him to be at the beginning and the end,
Exactly. Yeah. Because it would have also been funny too if, like, since Taggart is the, the chief or whatever now, I would have liked to see the 3 of them, like Judge, Taylor, and also Eddie, going around trying to solve this crime together. And, Judge being the person who's like, Axel, you should really talk with you. Like, there would have been such a funny dynamic between the 3 of them, because they did try to say that like her and Judge have a kind of father-daughter dynamic out there. But we don't really get to play around with that because we don't get to see these guys together until the end again.
And Rosewood's arc in the franchise makes sense, because it's like he gets more and more independent and bold, like Axel. So when we meet him in this one and he's still there, I'm like, that makes sense. And then Taggart's kind of, they do the opposite, where it's like he's getting more laid back too during the movies.
They made him into the police chief that doesn't believe them,
right.
And it's like, no, he should never be that.
He's done this with them 2 times. Like,
yeah, why would he ever doubt?
I did appreciate the one line though they have where JGL's looking through the files and he's like, oh yeah, and you had one of 94, not your finest hour. I was like, oh shit, shots fired.
Shots fired for real.
Oh man. So I don't know. Any other cast ones you wanted to talk about? I think that was all the ones I
think
had.
we got it all. Yeah, I think we covered it all.
I did like, I guess there's one other one that I noticed too, like, so the chief that gets gunned down in Beverly Hills Cop 3, he was in the first 2 as Axel's Detroit lieutenant or whatever. He died in real life, so obviously they couldn't bring him back for this one, but you could see his framed picture in the Detroit office, which I thought was like a nice little tribute. And he was funny story about that. He was an actual lieutenant. They like picked him out in Beverly Hills Cop 1, and they were like, to see.
He's got it.
And yeah, when he's like chewing Axel out, like, don't fuck with me, Axel. Like,
what the hell are you doing in my office? Yeah. So good.
He's like, yeah, wait, this isn't my office. No, it's not. So I did miss that a little bit, but I don't know. We'll talk about it more. So that brings us to our next segment called The Need for Speed.
Pain don't hurt.
In this segment, we'll do what the Oscars don't and honor the amazing stuntmen and women for their death-defying work and pick out the punch that knocked us out the most. All right, what are some of the stunts that stuck out? I know they were a little paint by numbers, but some of them were cool.
This isn't Tom Cruise. This isn't Tom Cruise where it's like, oh, there's so many to choose from. You know, it
Yeah,
was
Eddie
like,
Murphy's not trying to die on screen.
no. I think there was another interview too I listened to where he was saying like the director's like, yeah, can you just like run across the shot just like a little bit more, a bit faster, like more paced? And Eddie goes, no, I can't. I'm old, man.
No, man.
So I'll just say like I guess there's a lot of vehicle chases in this one. So number 3, I have the final truck chase where it's like the statues of drugs are coming out. That
Yes.
definitely felt like a callback to the original 2,
Yeah,
where
with the
Eddie
cigarettes
just
and
has to
everything.
steal a impractical vehicle and just drive it around and create chaos basically. Number 2 is like same thing, Meter Maid, where he has to steal
That was
her like
so funny. The way she
that
was
was pretty
hanging
funny.
off of it was pretty
Yeah.
good.
And he's like, what the hell are you doing? She goes, what the hell are you doing?
That's right.
She's spraying like pepper spray all across his face the whole time. So that
good.
that one was pretty funny. And then number 1, I guess just like the snowplow chase. Like I said, the beginning I felt did a really nice job of being like, this is the old Beverly Hills Cop that you like,
Mm-hmm.
So he's stealing a snowplow. There's people on like the 4-wheelers that are driving around. He's trying to catch because they robbed the the hockey stadium or whatever. So I
Yeah,
guess
the
those are my
locker
3
room,
favorites.
which I was like, ooh, that's an interesting thing because like there is a lot of money in the locker room,
And he bullshits his way into there too. Like, I'm a 5-time Stanley Cup winner.
Coach is trying to put me in. Where's my gear? So good. I also really loved when he was gonna stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel again, and he was like,
He just gives up.
"Hi, I'm here," and then he's like, "No, I'm too tired." Like,
He's like,
I thought
I'm
that was such a good, yeah, that was such
I'm
a
Mr.
funny way to be
Peppercorn.
like,
He's like, actually, never mind. I'm really
let me
tired.
just get a room. Yeah,
Gotta love Beverly Hills. They're like $1,000 a night.
ridiculous, dude.
Oof,
Not cool.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I agree. I think just they started really strong. That snowplow chase is so good. I also really liked the Meter Maid chase. I just thought it was really like it was a goofy action scene, which I liked.
Yeah.
Um
Same.
I liked when they smashed the car into the house in the big ending when the like one dude's just sort of like standing
Yeah.
there and then like through the house comes the truck. Because I love how like at the end of all of these movies they somehow are like destroying a house with gunfire and
Yeah.
cars and stuff. So paint the
Exactly.
playing all the hits there as well. I actually thought it was really cool when they hung Taylor Page's car out of the parking garage. I was like, shit, that's
Yeah.
scary, right? Because it
I
like
also was wondering though, like, how is she getting? I just feel like it'd be enough to just like held her at gunpoint and be like, drop it. But like that one was so extreme. Like, how is she getting out of there? How are they like?
how is she also not like taking this more seriously? Like the
Right.
way they were in the car, like the masks they were wearing were really scary, number one. And then like she was fucking straight hanging, which I thought was a cool stunt. But then it was kind of weird that she wasn't like, look, I'm not trying to investigate this any further. I'm not trying to get killed. I'm just trying to get my client
Yeah.
off. Like, I don't want any
Exactly.
danger. She seemed to sort of be like, I'm not afraid. I'm just not afraid.
I guess it's Axel's. They say it a lot in the movie. You're Axel's daughter. I can see why.
It could be. It could be.
Um,
But I think my favorite sequence was when JGL flew the helicopter. It like kind of free fell off the building, which was cool. And then it like flew at ground level, which I thought was like both funny and looked probably pretty hard. I liked I liked the crash in particular, but I agree with you. Like the scene that accompanied it with like Shooter being on the course was really random.
it just
I
took
didn't
me
think
out
they
of it.
needed to
It was
crash
so
it.
weird.
Yeah,
I
like
was
I feel like they could have just landed it and it was like a good enough stunt in terms of like him acting like he couldn't fly it very well. Like them also crashing it kind of made me be like, nah, I don't
because some of the
necessarily
other
need that.
cameos were like, where people they're comedic actors, which I think was smart. Like the
Right.
guy that immediately after that scene where he's like, "Come on, man, can I get a car, brother to brother?" And he's just like,
That scene
yeah, I'm
is
gonna lose
so
my
funny.
job."
And then he was like, oh,
absolutely
Mrs.
not.
Whatever, to go get
Yeah.
your car. I was like, this is what this movie's supposed
Or
to be.
the actress from SNL, I don't know her name, but she was the one that's showing them the house. She's also like
Yes,
very funny in
Nassim.
that.
Oh, so
Yeah.
funny. Yep.
Where she was kind of like hitting on Axel a lot and just being like, I am very lonely. Like just being like the overly honest business person, which does exist.
Yep.
he just like was really good at that. Like, and it was
It's
always
true.
funny
It's
in
like
SNL
everyone
playing a
who
similar
came.
character like that.
Yes, everybody who was there did want to do the best they could for this franchise. Did want to try to honor the like standard that was set there. So I feel like that stuff did work for me. And like I said,
They
I
could have
didn't.
had anybody. Like, so many people play golf now. I'm just thinking of like what would have been a better. I
If
mean,
it was
Steph
like,
Curry, like
yeah,
some celebrity like that. Just being like, "Hey,
yes.
what the hell, man?"
Like
Or
there,
just-
to your point about the racial politics that have come through this franchise, it would have been way better if it was like LeBron and Steph Curry out playing golf, and for him to be like,
Tiger
yeah,
Woods out there or something. Just
exactly, just for him to be
anybody.
like, oh hey man, sorry about messing your game up, like something that's a little bit more self-aware in all of these moments is definitely what we
It's
could
just
have
especially because
benefited
it's like
from.
Happy Gilmore 2 has been announced officially. They're making that, and so
They are?
yeah. They haven't written the
Nice.
script yet, but
Okay.
it's going to be Nick Swartzen was just on one of the podcasts I listened to, and he was like,
Okay.
they haven't made the script, but Nick Swartzen's going to be in it. Adam's coming back, and Shooter McGavin is coming back for sure. So that's
All right.
immediately what just popped into my head, where I was just like, is this like a Shooter McGavin like rehearsal for that? Like what?
Yeah, maybe just to get us to be
So
reminded that
weird.
he exists.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, cool. That brings us to our next segment, Death Proof.
If he dies, he dies.
This is where we take a look at the movie's body count and see who bit the dust the hardest. So a lot of bodies hit the floor in this one. What do you got?
They did actually.
Yeah.
I liked JGL killing like almost everybody he came in contact with. I thought that was pretty fun. I liked when they were in the chase with the cartel like dudes and they like smashed the guy with the Bronco.
You
I
said a Detroit
liked-
Classic car. I got a rental on a Detroit Classic.
Yes. Oh my god, it was so good.
God, I love Eddie.
I liked Eddie shooting around the column at the end, just some classic throwback style kills. But I really liked the slow-mo Kevin Bacon kill at the very end when
headshot.
JGL just like gets in there and they're like, let's slow it down and really show it happening. Those
just-
were my favorite.
I really like the late career Kevin Bacon thing. Like, he just shows up. He plays like these extreme characters. Usually they get fucked up. I mean, he does in Maxine. Like, I don't want to spoil that, but just completely messed up. So it's always good when he shows up, even though it wasn't a very meaty part for him to really chew on.
Right.
I don't think so. I also had the Kevin Bacon thing. They were definitely calling back to like Beverly Hills 2, where there's like, in that one, it was Brigitte Nielsen, I think, was like in the corner, as he was like drawing Axel in, and he had to like see the reflection, like that type of thing. Number 2, I just had like Reinhold taking out the guys. He does this classic, like, everyone hands up, you're under arrest.
Yes.
Just going at the end, getting to go like, not full Rambo, but that where he always just has to, you can see the adrenaline
Steps up,
like pumping him up. And then number 1, I thought that's probably the best action scene, I would say, is the cartel members on the street scene.
It was good.
The way it was shot, again, using like reflections and things to make it a little more exciting. And then, JGL for sure was like last action hero in this, where it's just like not hit at all, just taking out anyone that came in his way. It's like,
really nailing everybody.
They try and make him like a fuck up a little bit, but it's like whenever there's a gunfight, like this dude is just like untouchable. It's just kind of funny.
Yes. Yeah, he's like what Reinhold aspires to be. So the modern Reinhold does end up being as badass as he hoped to be.
I did like too how Eddie always made it uncomfortable whenever he showed up to, like, you had intercourse with my daughter. You two had intercourse.
You can't just make an attempt on my manhood and expect me to forget what we were talking about. It's so good.
So that takes us to our next segment called Exit Wounds.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
All right, this is where we'll talk about the film's imperfections and decide whether they are fatal hits or just minor flesh wounds. All right, what were your trips?
So I already mentioned a lot of them. I guess like for this one, I was just wondering like if it has to take place in Beverly Hills. Like that's kind of the familiarity part that I was like struggling with, where it's like we've used up all the tank in this of him going to Beverly Hills and it being funny. I think it's that's just done. So I was like, why not put it in like Detroit? Like, and again, like maybe have Rosewood come to Detroit and then like, I guess I know that's not like Beverly
The
Hills
same.
Cop, but like, do something different, take some risks.
Could have been interesting.
No strip club scene. I guess they mention it.
Dude,
I guess
I thought they were going to go at the very end.
I did too, and I was ready for that.
Yep.
But I guess the Luis Guzman, if I had to guess, the reason they put that in there was because you get sort of a clubby scene in there. But
yeah,
again,
need
felt
a couple
very
strippers.
safe. Yeah, that's what this is known for. And I do like the line Rose was like, "Did he take you to a strip club yet?" Like,
yeah.
Because again, that's a staple of the series. And then I guess like the helicopter scene really didn't work for me. Aside from the Shooter McGavin thing, it's just like, you get fired from it because you crashed one. So okay, maybe you're not that good, but it's like you don't just forget how to
you're
fly
all
a
of a sudden going to
helicopter.
be so shitty at it,
You
right?
know, it's like it just felt like very weird. And so, and again, some of that just felt like an excuse to be like, all right, we can do the helicopter on the ground, and we can have it like flying through the city and things like that. And so it just, I don't know, didn't really work for me.
Yeah.
I was definitely zoning out during the hell sequence. So
yeah, I mean, I share the same kind of concerns here. I just was sort of like, why is Taggart not on the team? It's just weird that he's
that
not
was
on
the
the
big
team
one
again.
for me too.
Like,
that was the big one.
So random, made no sense here. But yeah, I think you make some pretty good points there as well.
And Ronnie Cox also passed away. Like that would have been nice to see him return. He was the lieutenant in the first two.
Yes.
So I get they tried to replace that trope, but they have both of the good lieutenants in the trilogy have passed away. Right. But maybe you don't need a hardcore lieutenant. Then
it can be anyone else. It can also just be some person who does like one scene for us or two scenes for us. We don't need. It's just weird that they put a guy we're used to seeing do other things in that role.
Yeah. And it just didn't fit with his arc either. That I don't believe you guys. I don't know. You're suspended. Like what? That's not Taggart. That's not the Taggart we know and love.
Exactly. Ridiculous. All right. Cool. That brings us to our next segment. Heavy hitter.
Okay. So what do you need besides a miracle?
Guns. Lots of guns.
So yeah, in this segment, we pick between our favorite action stars, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sly Stallone, or Keanu Reeves to determine who would bring the most heat to this movie if they were in the cast. Who do you got?
I went with Sly before I knew he was attached.
Yeah.
Because I thought it would be great for Rosewood to have the closure of meeting with Sly Stallone and being like, there he is. It's Rambo. Like that would have been so funny. What about you?
I love a good celebrity cameo. I think if used right, they're very good. And you're in Beverly Hills, so it's reasonable that would happen. So I put Sly as well. The franchise history is cool. They lean into that with the Judge Reinhold character being so obsessed with Rambo. I thought that would have been that could have been the golf cameo. That would have been funny.
That would have been so good.
Funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, just having hey man, what's going on? I'm just trying to play golf here.
Yeah, you're messing up my game.
And then just like Judge Reinhold just like completely like
it would have been so funny.
I have a Rambo knife at home. Like yeah, so great. So yeah, I think that's the best call for sure.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our last segment, Game Over, man.
What a picture.
Good picture. Yeah.
That is so much fun. I love that stuff, the killing.
A lot of killing.
Yes. In this final segment, we will rate the film out of 5 badges. All right, what did you rate it?
I like that part too, where it's like, can I see your badge real quick?
No, you cannot.
Yeah, which like, again, in 2024, I feel like that's so much harder. There's like, you can look stuff up on the web and be like, what's your name? Like
right away.
So it's tough. I gave it 2.5. I really wanted to like this a lot more. It had a lot of positive buzz, like the reviews especially have been really positive comparatively. And I think that just might be the low bar. Like I said, I think people are just like, oh my God, this is so refreshing. Like Eddie's back. And it's like, yes, I get that. But, I had a lot of the same issues I have with legacy sequels. Like I gave Indiana Jones, I think, the same score. And, this reminded me a lot of that. It was a lot of struggling, playing the hits, weird choices. And so for that, I'll give it 2.5. There's some funny jokes here and there, but Nothing that immediately sticks to mind and is like, oh, this is the best of the franchise. So overall, I mean, I think you could just stick with the first two and you're good. And that's what I've been doing pretty much my entire life up to this point. And so
Right.
I think that's pretty much where we'll stick around too. So what about you?
I gave it a 3 for similar reasons. I think the story was like just fine. I was pleased that there was some action in it because I definitely expected it to be more muted. But I gave it the 3 mostly for the nostalgia factor. That like I just was so excited to be with these characters again, to be doing this thing again, to be reminded of this type of movie again. And I think like, that's maybe where I fall when they bring back these franchises where these guys are like for sure too old for this shit.
Yeah.
I still just love the vibe of hanging with them again.
I like that joke too, where he's just like, you look like shit, man. We're the same age.
Yes.
Eddie is always going to be reliably funny. But I guess, and it's just this narrative where it's like, oh, yes, it's Eddie Murphy's back. And I'm like, dude, did you guys all just miss Dolomite Is My Name? Like, Eddie Murphy has been back. I thought that movie was amazing. Like, I thought like that was such an underrated film that year that was probably not in my top 10, but probably my top 20 that year. Like, it was so good. He really killed that part, really funny. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely think, he's always reliable. He's always going to be able to show up. But it is one of those things where, I'm not sure what the future of continuing franchises like this kind of looks like if we do
I heard
get
someone
that
say there
next
might be
level.
another one too. I heard that on a podcast too, that there might be making another one, and I don't know.
I guess we'll see.
They have to change it up. If they do another one, again, all I ask is you have to justify your existence. That's all.
Fair.
I don't even know what they would do in the next one, but
I think that's a very fair baseline.
Yeah.
All right. I think that wraps it up for us. Let's remind the people where they can find us.
Yeah, get your fix and follow the show at We Stay Buff on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and Twitch at The Buffs. Follow me on all the socials at Misfit_minded and my website, misfitminded.com.
Take us for a ride and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave a positive review. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. And you can follow me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. Next week, we'll be covering Twister because the new one's coming, and I'm pretty stoked. Also, just Yondabont Central over here for us. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time for another edition of Movie Buffs. Until then...
Get the fuck out of here! Somebody else, I said it myself.